Zoom meetings and the VR stuff. Uh, I think it was something like 10 hours,
Oh wow.
but
Wow.
none of it was in a headset though.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
My wife
All
was
right
banging
now.
on the door, says,
Yeah.
"Come out and eat."
Right to the portals.
Right.
Yeah,
What are you doing in
Yeah.
there? You're talking to people. He's
yeah.
probably like, "Who are you talking to?"
Looks good in here.
Just say it's my friends, honey.
Yeah.
Well, this one's Avatar. Cool.
This one's
Is this
new.
the first?
All
Is this the
right.
first Avatar one of
Okay.
mine?
You take
No,
care.
no, Jerry last was the
You
first Avatar.
too.
The
Great
back.
to see
Oh,
you. Thanks for
oh,
being here.
cool.
I enjoy it.
One
Get to meet
Avatar.
people
Great.
like
The rest of
Woodstock
those in
here.
so far.
Oh,
Right.
please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jerry's the only one I missed.
Thank
But
you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Bunch
great.
of
I've
You
cool,
have your
been.
bike back.
cool people in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When we all
it's
start out tech,
it's
Well,
pretty great.
I
Pretty
couldn't
great.
figure out how to get it out of
we all
there. I
start
don't
out
understand what that
tech-wise
means.
when
They
you're
got in
so
there.
don't sweat it. I see every once in a
Yeah.
while you make those.
I don't. He
Cool
didn't
stuff. I'm like,
actually
yeah,
show me the
I don't know
footage,
how to
and
click
like
down on this
my
and do that.
distrust
And
in humanity
stuff.
makes me feel
Don't
like
sweat it. Don't sweat it.
it was an
Don't
inside
do
job,
anything.
and like when they heard that I was
Yeah,
asking
Well,
for
I'm
footage
a
and gonna
retired
file
rocket
a report, they
scientist.
brought it back.
because they're ready to go.
Hey, my dad's a
See?
rocket scientist.
But
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know.
There you go.
I
Maybe
actually
not.
built
The
missiles,
guy
but
said that they
yeah.
had they've been
And
keeping
same
it
with
up
him.
in the
He
office.
did
I
the
guess they've
Titan
had it
4.
for.
Oh, okay.
He made it
Oh,
seem
wow.
like they've had it
Yeah.
for at least a few days
Oh,
now,
yeah. We have
and they didn't want to send out a blast
Titan Missile
email like,
Museum
"Hey, we
here in
found an
Tucson.
e-bike," because
Oh,
anybody
is
could be
there?
like, "Oh, I'm missing mine,"
Yeah.
just to
Huh.
get it.
I'll have to tell him about it.
So they were waiting
Maybe
for
Yeah,
we'll
they've
someone
take
to
got
a
say
trip.
something
a
allegedly.
deactivated
But I
missile
guess
in the
he
silo.
said the footage
Very
shows
cool.
like people coming
Yeah.
Very
in,
cool.
and
I'll
they
have
like
to
I'm jumping
come
off
out and
if you
visit
don't
that.
when you come out of the bike
Okay.
thing,
Sorry.
if you don't hang a left and go like out
Bye.
the garage door,
Bye.
if you go like straight, there's no exit, and then it just takes you down to underground parking where it's just a complete like dead end with like no exits at all.
We meet
So I
again,
guess they
video
went the
girl.
wrong way and ended up
Yes, we
down,
do.
and they couldn't. There was like nowhere to retreat quickly, so they just ditched the bike down there and
How's
like
it going for
turned
you?
around on foot.
Doing okay. I'm staying away.
Cool.
Hey, Doug, were you able to download those
That
videos
helps.
for the next
Yes.
two rounds
Yes.
for
Well,
us to play?
us old guys need lots of naps.
Fantastic. So I will just text him and let him know that we've got them and we're all set. He understands that there's a 10-second delay. So when he says, we're going to show the trailer, he's just going to keep talking for 10 seconds until it actually
I
plays.
do love
Ah.
this
Good
venue.
deal.
This
Yeah.
one's
And
nice.
then
This
this
one's
panel's
really
ready to
pretty.
go in minutes, right?
It's very happy.
They're
Yeah.
all
Yes.
on and ready to go and
Yeah.
kept
I keep
and
saying I got to learn how to do world
I can
building, and
hear
I
good.
never quite get there.
I
You hear
know
my
it's
audio?
on my list of
No, I
things
heard
to
theirs
learn
audio.
too.
You hear their audio through me?
You can do it with
No,
the assets that
I see that they're
AltSpace provides.
Oh,
talking.
I
It
hear them.
it doesn't look anything like this.
Very strange. Hold on.
Uh-huh. Well,
Well,
you
that's
know,
Yeah,
not
there
Doug.
changed.
are classes
No,
in alt space to learn this.
change. Hold on. Why am
Oh
I
yeah.
Are
not in
there?
Zoom?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Educators in
You might have hit the
VR
mute
has a
button on
world
your
building
computer.
group,
There's like the
and
Huh.
computer
they
don't
Yeah.
hear anything button.
they
I
even
did
have
Yeah,
a
we
that
have
and
a
I was
vent.
like,
site
how come I
for
can't hear
beginners.
anything on my computer? And then it's
Yeah,
the mute
and
everything
everyone's
and
on there
anything.
like
I've been during their
yeah.
convention
Hold
when
on.
they had it here, but
Okay.
Oh wow.
I
it
hear it.
looks
I
like
got
it's
it.
not
Yeah.
all that complicated.
Yeah.
It depends if you want to use Unity and Blender and those different
Hmm.
software. Then there's a
Hmm.
learning curve.
That's true. But you can just use the alt space tools
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
started with and keep it basic.
And there's like a bunch of creators. I think you go into groups or something like that, and you join their group, and then they share stuff, and more stuff to work with.
Sounds like fun.
It's all fun. Just gotta have the time.
Yeah, yeah. You do need the time for it.
So the new panelist that's taking Jonathan's place, this woman Cynthia, she does She-Hulk. So she made her avatar look like She-Hulk.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Wow. Oh, I'm excited
Yeah.
to see their
She-Hulk?
avatars.
Mhm.
Hey, Jordan. Hey, Jordan. It's Kendra.
Hey Kendra, hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. I find this to be so cool. It's so
Isn't it
cool.
cool?
I could totally see how this is like what becomes of our existence as it keeps getting better.
Actually,
Yes,
like
and Matt,
a long
and
good ride. Yeah.
How's it going?
Matt and Jules.
Good, good. You all
and,
ready for your panel?
Yeah, we had a switch
whatever
up,
the burner.
maybe for the best.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, not really for the best, but
the one that was asking
John
the
can't make it.
Romero
But I got
question.
another one of our cosplayers to
Hello.
come, so we'll have two
Welcome
cosplayers.
to
Very cool.
FanConXR,
Right, they're
the
starting.
world's first virtual
Hello.
reality.
Yeah.
Welcome
Right.
to
Hello.
FanConXR, the world's first virtual reality Comic-Con. I'm Heidi MacDonald. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Beat at comicsbeat.com. And I'm here to talk to three creators from Image Comics. We have Pornsak Pichetshote, Hannah Rose May, and Henry Barajas, who have three very different and all fascinating comics out now from Image. And they've all had kind of an interesting journey to Image Comics, and which is one of the most important publishers of the last 20 years, 25 years. So let's get to it. Well, first off, let's just have you guys, what do you all think of VR? Have you guys been walking around the con? What's your experience? Do you all have an Oculus at home? What's your experience with it?
It took me 5 virtual background for Zoom. That is about my technical prowess here.
Yeah, I had just got an Oculus like a week before I had a signing at Golden Apple. So I was able to I just got Beat Saber. I just got one. But other than playing Beat Saber, I'm not very in tune with it. I'm learning though. Next one I'll be on the headset.
I am too poor.
Well, it certainly is it's pretty fascinating. I don't have a headset. A lot of us have bad eyesight, and get headaches. So it can be
VR
very
is
immersive.
in your mind.
Yeah, but it's very fascinating, and I just want to, in all honesty, walk around the setup that they have here is really fascinating and impressive, and I think it's really cool. Well, also very cool is all the books that you have out, and I guess want to just talk a little bit about your comics origins and what brought you to Image Comics. So Henry, I'll start with you, because your name begins with B. But Henry,
well.
you how did you get to
I'm
be
gonna take a little break.
at Image Comics?
I gotta give my face a break.
Blackmail
I'll be back.
is probably.
Yeah, take the break.
I wrote for Heidi for Comics Beat for a long time, and I got to meet Matt Hawkins, who gave me a job, and I got to work with Mark Silvestri, Matt, and Elena Salcedo for 5 years, and they took a chance on me. I went in through a very, traditional Image route, working there. And yeah, I just basically took any job I could, and I was thankfully able to build a lot of relationships, like one with Ryan and Golden Apple. Shout out to Golden Apple for being such a huge
Shout out.
if you get a
Thank
chance,
you.
go to the website right now, buy all our comics there.
And more comics.
Yes, they have tons.
Yeah.
There is a beautiful Golden Apple shop here in FanConXR.
There you
It's
go.
incredible.
Go there and,
There you
and
go.
buy some stuff. But yeah, I feel very lucky that I got to be a part of this family, and it's not, you got to earn your keep. I feel very lucky that La Voz de Mayo and Tata Rambo have done as well as they have. And I'm really excited to work with Skybound on the Creep Show #4 with Danny. We're doing a really cool Lucha Libre horror story. So yeah, it's hopefully, you really gotta, I don't know, earn your place in this business and this publisher. So yeah, it's a very unorthodox way.
Mm. Well, I don't think anybody on here is too orthodox. Let's put it that way. Pornsak, how about you? How did you end up at Image Comics?
I borrowed some of Henry's blackmail, I think. I started off as an editor. 8,000 years ago, I was an editor over at Vertigo, and I edited a bunch of books there. I that job at DC led me out to become a TV exec for DC, but I miss comics. And so I really wanted to do comics again. And the great thing about, and honestly, the thing I missed was just like making comics is a good excuse to just like keep in touch with your friends. And so, you know, I wanted to make this comic. I put together a team, and that book would be Infidel. So I called up my old friend, Jose Villarrubia, and Jose is, you know, one of the great sort of colorists in comics, but he also, to his own admission, is like a frustrated editor. And he was just like, he loved the project, and he was kind of like, I would love, you know, I'm a frustrated editor, I would love to edit this. And I thought that sounded really cool. He brought Aaron Campbell to the mix. You know, I brought Jeff Powell, who was a friend of my friend, who is a friend and worked for my friend Sebastian Gerner. And so we put together a pitch packet and sent it over to Image, and that started a really great relationship with that publisher, where I, you know, and it's kind of the only place we could have published a book like Infidel and a book like The Good Asian, and to the in the shape that we did it. So yeah, I've been happy there ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, Hannah, I saved you to last because I feel like your story might be a little different. How did you find your way?
Yeah, it's not as interesting as either of theirs, to be honest.
No, it's even better.
Yes, that's right.
I was obviously a fan of Image, like a fan of all their books, everything they produce, and Declan Shalvey being an Irish creator. There's not a lot of Irish people in comic books in general. There's not a lot of Irish people in general, you know, we're small. So there is that stereotype of anyone Irish knows everyone else who's Irish. So Declan and I were friends on social media, and I had this concept for a Rogues Gallery that I really wanted to turn into a comic book. And I asked Declan for his advice on what he thought about it and like how to go about pitching it. And Declan liked it and came on board and said that he would, you know, help me make 5 pitch pages to give to Image. So we only pitched Image, and they said yes. So I definitely had like a different experience, but you know, Image were like the goal from the get-go, but definitely Declan that knocked down that door for me.
That's so awesome. But and also, just to be clear, you have your day job is a little different. It's not in comics.
Yeah, no, I'm fortunate to say it's leaning more towards comics now. Like I'm currently working on 3 books, kind of 4. So it's consuming me in a way that is really fun. I found a lot of enjoyment in it. But yes, I am an actress.
You're also you're also the 3rd Irish person that's participated in FanConXR thus far. We've had Garth Innes.
Oh yeah.
The Aftershock panel, and I don't know if you know Mark McCann with even a thicker accent than you, and he was in Ireland and just enthralled in it. You know, maybe even had a Guinness at his side.
Probably.
So Ireland is well represented in FanConXR, I could tell you that.
Also, I don't know Garth very well, but Garth in VR sounds like an amazing like that in and of itself. Feels like
he was on Zoom. Let's
oh yeah, I'm sure Garth just had that Oculus on.
Yeah, right.
You know.
No, we were in Zoom.
That would be for the next one.
Yeah, that would deserve a you know, a vision for all of us. Well, I guess the reason I asked why you know coming to Image is that it is very unique business model, and in that you get to own your comic free and clear.
Yes.
And I have to assume, you know, it's a creator owned company, and it's lasted for this long as creator owned, and I have to assume that being able to own the concepts, being able to own the media rights to your books was something that kind of made Image the dream home for you all.
Yeah, I mean, for me, definitely. I mean, it definitely was the case, and Image was definitely my first choice. But honestly, you know, for Infidel, it was our first book, and so we would have taken anyone who got it. Image just happened. You know, Image was our first place. But the main reason why I think Image made the most sense beyond just the ownership, and why I kind of keep coming back, is my books tend to have a political bent, and the more cooks you get into that kitchen, you know, people can get squeamish about those kind of things. And so keeping the nucleus small with people that I trust gives me a chance to sort of say things that are very personal, that do, you know, in this world that we're in, kind of rubs up against sort of political overtones in a way that, you know, I don't have to worry about an editor being like, oh, can we talk about that? Can we not talk about that? And that's one of the main reasons why, you know, I mean, listen, the ownership rights, those are fantastic, but that's sort of, for me, was the main reason why coming to Image is the stuff I work on is relatively sensitive.
I'm not just saying this, right? This is not just me.
No.
Nope.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They're cool on that.
I mean,
We have people working on that. Don't worry about it.
A crack team. A
Technical
crack team
difficulties.
around the clock on this.
I mean, someone's
Yeah.
working, that's for sure.
Sorry, you guys, something came up. So
Yeah. Yeah. Similar to
well, thank goodness. Well, cannot be unseen. Anyway, whew. Henry, some of your work's political as well.
yeah. I mean, I just want to step aside and just, congratulate Hannah for her like incredible turnaround on talk about film and television rights. You're working with one of the greatest actors and someone who's been, championing political things like protecting trans kids. I mean, how does that? Please elaborate on that, because I have nothing to. I mean, I have some things to share, but I'd like to hear more about what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Rogues Gallery has social commentary. It's similar to what Pornsak was saying, that I particularly didn't want more cooks in the kitchen to tone down the message that we were putting out there, and the main message in Rogues Gallery, which is obviously toxic fandom. So for us to get a partner outside of the comic book, it was really exciting that Don's team came forward, because obviously I love Don Cheadle. I'm a big fan of him, both on and off the screen. And yeah, it's also, I didn't realize, obviously Don's an Avenger. He hasn't adapted another comic book before. Like, it's actually his first one. So his whole like production company were waiting for something that like Don could really, get involved in and stick his hands on. And yeah, he's an awesome partner. I'm really excited. The fact that he tweeted with the announcement that just came out on Wednesday was he just tweeted LFG, like, let's fucking go. And I was like, yeah, this is why it's him. But yeah, thank you, Henry.
Right. Well, yes, I mean, absolutely. There's owning the media rights is one of the important. Many, correct? So so before we even know the ending, but let's talk about Rogues Gallery, because it deals with some incredibly pertinent issues of toxic fandom and parasocial relationships, and just how people become a little too obsessed with the things that they love, and also just being in the world and being a character, and how that affects the performer who becomes that character. And so
home invasion thriller based around toxic fandom and obsession. I basically wanted to play with what happens when the lines get blurred.
Hey, Lindsay.
Something that's on screen and something that's
So
off
Ryan
screen,
just
and
said to
how,
block
as fans,
Jenny,
we
somebody
can't, like, it sometimes find it
immediately.
difficult to disassociate from the
in
character they're
world.
playing and the person that
I
they
don't know
are.
if it was in this world, but
which is
I
why
don't
we
know.
all made the deliberate
He's like
decision
I
to
think
open
that
on
was
the
where
rogues on our
the source
fans
of
for
the
issue 1, and then we flipped the script
porn
and
is
showed a
coming
different
from.
perspective
Yeah.
for Maisie
Yeah.
from issue
Like,
2,
Yeah,
because we
right.
wanted people
They're not
to
on Zoom.
kind of judge
I
her a
don't
little
know.
bit the way that
I
our
have
fans were
no
judging
idea.
her, and
They
have
could be in Zoom. I have no idea.
opinions of her based on
Because
their
I can
opinions
get
of
you the
her,
name.
which is very easy on the internet. It's one of those things where like you fall in a black hole sometimes.
Okay.
Of,
might be a
you know,
Zoom
it's very easy to be a
person,
sheep
which I
when
don't
you
might be
see
a
a
Zoom
bunch of
person.
people
We
with
don't
one
have
opinion.
that.
Then you start
How-
second guessing
who
what
has
your
that
own opinion is,
capability?
because you're like, wait, am I wrong in this? And I think we see
see
that all the
Okay.
time on Twitter.
So and Doug looks like
So yeah,
he's
so we
not
really
doing
play with
much.
that in Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
I don't want to give away
he
too
must
much
be-
because
he
issue
must
3 is
be
only out, and a
working
lot
on
of
it.
people were not expecting it. The
Probably.
theories online
Yeah,
have been
he's
really
on it.
fun
Yeah.
to read. Nobody got it though. Like
Yeah.
that was
On the
one thing that was
computer.
really exciting, is that
Right.
like
I'm
nobody
hopping
had
out of
actually
my-
hit the nail on
my
the head
thing.
of like what
I'll
the
be
big
right
twist
back.
was.
Cool.
So that just came out on Wednesday, which is really awesome to see that people are enjoying it, which also is very meta to the story. Yeah, I'm like, I want to say more, but then I don't want people to not go read it and enjoy
well,
it.
it's a great high concept, and like I said, it's so relevant to so many things that we all do. And I'm sure Pornsak and Henry both working at comic book companies, and you've seen it from the other side also. I mean, you've seen fandom and how wonderful it can be, but sometimes it does cross the line a little bit. So
Yeah. I had actually got to attend the Star Wars premiere, and I
What's
saw
going
Kelly
on?
Marie Tran like 2 weeks before the movie came out, and obviously Kelly Marie Tran was ran off the internet, terribly so. And it was one of the more upsetting things that I've ever witnessed go down on the internet, because 2 weeks prior, I was watching someone have the break of their life, like as a fan on the sidelines, watching her on the red carpet, crying with excitement and sheer joy, was like everything that any like an actress like myself like strives for. Everyone wants to wait for that day, and I can't even imagine that feeling of getting on Star Wars, which is I feel like the ultimate dream for the majority of actors, to then see that her just be so ripped apart 2 weeks later and have something that she worked incredibly hard for, like essentially be blamed for an entire franchise that she had no involvement for. She just showed up to work every day
Lindsay, she's
and did
on
her job
Zoom.
and delivered that script that she was handed.
I have no.
Was really difficult to
I'm not
see.
laughing.
So that's always played on me. So you
Carrie's
can see
on
that
it.
throughout Rogues Gallery. Just in the like the obsessed, like how the majority of people who do join these franchises, and we also can't deny that the majority of them do tend to be beautiful, successful women. Yeah, I couldn't overlook it, and I felt like it was a really fun way to showcase that by doing the comic book itself.
Well, like I said, it's a really powerful concept. So no wonder you're doing more comics. Pornsak, I mean, The Good Asian is another book. That's your most recent one that came out.
Eisner Award winning. Excuse me.
Eisner Award winning.
Checks in the mail, Henry. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, I had to change his Twitter bio. I was like, you need to put that in now. You fancy?
Heidi and I were at the Eisner Awards sitting next to each other when you won. Whoop, whoop,
I was like your proud Theo, like, let him know, mijo, tell him.
I remember nothing of that night, so I thank you, because it's all a blur for me.
Well, that's it, the big night, but it's so well deserved. And it's a noir mystery set in San Francisco in the 30s, but it's really also about the Asian American experience, the Chinese American experience. And you discovered all these, rediscovered, brought to light a lot of incredible, oppression that happened to Chinese immigrants and to Asian immigrants. And just, it's such a little told story that you had a hard time finding research to tell this, right?
Yeah, it was a couple years worth of sort of research for it, because it's so little told. I was looking for a very specific thing. I wanted the Chinese American experience in 1936, kind of sort of while not necessarily the last days of the Chinese Exclusion Act, but leading up to the events that would cause the end of the Chinese Exclusion Act. And so you'd have stuff that was about the Chinese Exclusion Act when it first occurred. You had stuff that was about Chinese Americans at the time that had no mention of the Exclusion Act. So, and the thing that was really interesting to me was, this idea that, the idea came shortly after we passed the Muslim ban over here. This entire generation that grew up beneath an immigration ban, when that was the only thing they knew, that was their reality. And what was it like to come of age and grow up? What does that do to your sense of self and your sense of community and your sense of being an American? And that's what I really wanted to talk about. So it took a lot of tracing down different sources, kind of tetrising the material together. We worked with Grant Din, who is a historical consultant, to make sure we got those facts right. But that was part of the project. We really wanted a story that could kind of sit within history. And part of the challenge of the book is I'm constantly terrified, someone will publish something, they'll be like, oh, this entire thing was sort of wrong. But that was kind of the goal. The goal was to take the history that we knew and have a story that could actually have a genre story, a noir story that could actually sit within it without contradicting any of the facts that so far we know.
Well, it's an incredible backdrop and an incredible story too. I mean, it's such a great mystery, so many great characters, and well deserving of the Eisner Award. I have to say. But Henry, your story, Home Grey Castle, is also, you did a lot of research. It's kind of takes a point in history and then veers off into wild, totally chaos, magic, fantasy. A rumble. It's a rumble. But did you do a lot of research for this, for Helm Grey Castle?
Oh yeah. While I was researching La Voz de Mayo, I stumbled upon my mother's side of the family is Pascuayaki, and Spanish priests documented them during the Inquisition. So I didn't know that. And I then realized, oh, I know nothing about Mesoamerican history, even though I lived an hour away from the border. There's been a lot of political, um, you know, massaging of like what, Mexican American kids can learn about their history. And I started reading the Aztec comic online, and then I subscribed to Paul's Patreon, and then I read this book called Broken Spears, which was a direct narrative from the indigenous point of view, because a lot of the research I was doing was written by white or European educators. And so it was cool to find like a book that it read like a horror story. It read like an action story, omens and people getting killed and slaughtered, and it's such an incredible thing. And I just really wanted to find a way to exploit my people and make some money. And
You guys got to understand his sense of humor. You gotta follow along when he's being serious, when he's not.
it just it's, you can't trust me. So yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky, but
and gets reshared and you get cancelled, we'll back you up.
oh, thank you.
We're
I'm
all
very
here. We're all here for
Yes,
it, Henry.
yes, Henry. I mean, getting I've already been canceled for the things I'm doing for Gil Thorpe, which is not an Image comic yet. Eric Stevenson, I know you're watching. I know you're really going to want to republish that. But yeah, so Helm Greycastle was also my love of Tolkien, which Heidi, I know you love Tolkien, and my attempt to shame D&D, because there's just, it's not aimed at anyone but a particular audience. And I really wanted to find a way to be like, oh, you can bring this whole, group of people. Like if you would have told me when I was 10 years old, all you needed was a, player's handbook, piece of paper, some pencil, some dice, and you can play for hours, you probably couldn't have pried me away from that. So yeah, the goal was to make a $5 comic that could give you that whole experience, to just like anybody, like these source books are like $40-$50, the dice are like $20, getting the maps and the all these things is really expensive. But to find a way to just like break that through and just make it a little more user friendly, but also forcing you to think about putting your characters in a world that isn't Game of Thrones, or it isn't Europe, or all these familiar settings.
It's such a fresh, I mean, it came across to me at least as such a fresh setting. And I mean, obviously there is always a big fascination with the Mayans and Aztec, but mostly it's just vanished cultures, and not kind of from inside this, and also the the indigenous culture and the mythologies, and then you throw in D&D, and it's it. So
thank you.
Yeah, good job. But the Helm Greycastle also includes actual gaming modules, right?
Yeah, I worked with Tristan J. Tarwater, Jeffrey Golden, and Matt Hawkins, and we had 4 games in every issue. Every issue came with a map. So I was encouraging people to tear the interior pages out so you could put your miniatures on the inside, front, and back cover. Because I'm one of those people that folds my comics and puts them in my back pocket and rides my bicycle down to Dr. Pepper's drugstore and get some bubble gum and soda pop. The good old days.
Now you get some almond milk, don't you?
Almond milk, yeah.
Excuse me,
I
oat milk.
love excuse me, oat milk.
Trending TikTok right now. I'm not on TikTok, but I pretend to be like Gen Z every now and then. It makes me feel better about myself. So I pop on and I see what's trending, and the thing that's trending right now is "fuck, marry, kill" of Milks, and I was like, oh wow. Almond milk all the way.
So I'm curious, just I always love talking about how people develop their stories, because it's always so many interesting lessons to be learned, creative lessons to be learned. And Pornsak, with the Good Asian being a classic noir mystery with past secrets that come to light, and present entanglements and dark dark alleyways and horrible things that are discovered. But did you have, I mean, aside from the research, did you really have the story of Edison Hark, this Chinese detective? Did you have to kind of change it? Did you come to you all in one, or how did the story develop?
It's so funny.
I was just gonna
what is?
announce to the world
Edison
here pretty
Oh,
soon.
thank you. It's funny. Today is the fourth. I just came from my nephew's 4th birthday, and it was a rejected name. A rejected name for my nephew.
Yeah.
So I had
kind of waiting.
I had to recycle my ideas.
I was
basically.
kind of waiting to see.
But
there was gonna be
it's so funny. So much. I mean, there's so many analogies people use about stories and childbirth and and all that. And I feel like one of the things that's kind of like is that apparently it's so painful that after you do it, you forget so much about it. So like every time I start a new story, I'm like, how do you do this again? And so like, and so when people ask, I'm like, yeah, how did that happen? I think I had the general. There is certainly the general concept. If I remember correctly, I had the general concept of what I wanted the story to be. I had the areas in which I wanted the story to explore, and it's certainly at that point. I didn't know if we'd have more chances to do this. And one of the things that the guiding sort of principles was that, well, if I fuck it up, I'm not just fucking it up for me, I'm fucking it up for the next guy down the line too. So if we're gonna dance up to the edge, we might as well explore it, because if we only go so far and I fuck it up, then somebody else isn't going to be able to do it. So that became, all right, these are all the areas that I kind of want to explore with this story. And then from there, once I knew what that sort of was, it was finding a mystery that could kind of take me through all those sort of different pieces and finding those sort of a way to knit it all together. And so that, I mean, it's interesting, like different projects work in different ways. One of the things I took for this was the plot, and the mystery in some ways was, I think I knew the big twist at the end. And I think that was the other thing too. I think looking at a lot of these stories, a lot of them can get so serpentine that you sort of lose track of sort of what's happening. And listen, I might be guilty of that as well. And but I think like the ones that I sort of tend to remember has like one really nice good twist at the end, and then you can kind of do whatever you want sort of leading up to that. So that's kind of, I had that sort of that big twist. I knew what my big twist was, and then in after that, the plot in a way was the last thing to come. It was mostly the characters, and the characters were extension of the things I wanted to explore in the time period and the topic and all that, and just finding a way to sort of knit it all together. And then it was one of the boons and the blessings of doing it serialized is the plot also kind of twisted to kind of make it a good monthly read and to kind of give you that nice sort of serial jolt. And I think that was kind of what my process was like writing it.
How long were you working on it? Because I was around for Henry and I've been friends for a long time, so I know how long his process was. How long were you working on it?
So I have this thing where because I'm working on too much, I have a lot of projects in the back burner, and the projects in the back burner, they just kind of cook, and you do sort of research while you can and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, so like Infidel came out in like 2018, but like I had the idea for it in like 2009. The Good Asian, I had the idea for that book before I even wrote Infidel in 2018. So the idea kind of came in 2017, and then it was just like you're doing the research and all that, and that's a thing too. Like, as you're doing the research, things just sort of pop in, and you're like, oh, you can put this here, you can put that there. The other research that I talk a little less about was, and probably because it's also a lot of fun, is just like reading a whole bunch of like, Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, and making sure you got those sort of pieces right, and making sure it feels like one of those things. And so as you're kind of doing that, and you have sort of allowed time to kind of let it sit and knit together, you read things, you pick things up in the way, and you kind of like, oh, this is a good thing that goes here, and this things that goes there. And then at a certain point, I brought out my like serial killer spreadsheet and like, the murder board, and try to like piece it all together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pornsak as an ex-editor, I'm also an ex-editor, but there's some writers who just they just do pull it right out of thin air, and they just have it, and they're just like, they just know how to do it. And most of us mortals.
Kind of talent. Yeah, I don't have that kind of talent, let me tell you.
Yeah.
it is a lot of smoke and mirrors and dancing to make you think I know what I'm doing. So I need a long run up.
Henry, how about with Helm Greycastle? I mean, you have this cast of super powered a squad, a party, excuse me, going, led by Helm Greycastle himself. But I mean, did you reject characters? Did you keep characters? Although I think you put them all in there. It's a pretty busy cast.
I mean, Pornsak pulls it out of thin air. I pull my ideas from where the sun don't shine. So
I could have predicted that's what he was going to say. I could have finished it.
Thank you, Hannah. That means a lot. With Helm, it was basically the goal was to do a story about what if the Aztecs got to live a little longer, and what if they were a little more militaristic than they really were. What if they tried to keep this place a secret because the fear of people coming in and taking this from them is great, because this already happened once. And when you bring in this element of fantasy where you have these people who can go into any tavern, they can go into any small town and just wreak havoc, where
If anybody
they
has
don't
a
know
question,
all the rules, they
come
don't know the culture,
find
they don't
me.
know these
I
people.
can relate.
It's everything so foreign to them, where it's always
Hi.
interesting to see fantasy stuff where like everybody has a British accent. It's all like kind of the same, and everyone's like kind of familiar with each other. But to drop these people in this place where it's like, oh, I don't know any of this was a lot of fun for me. And it was also supposed to read like a D&D game. Like there's these things that happen and your party either runs away or they stay, or or they get, they're defeated, and you have to regroup. And also just like, I don't know, just this, like Lavosa Mayo was so personal and was something that was just something that people will come up to me and go like, how's your family? And I'm like, why do you know about my family? Oh yeah, I put out a whole book about them. And this thing was like, I want to get as far away from
Still
it
can't
as
hear
possible
you.
while
Your mouth
like
is
mixing
moving.
in my identity
question
as a
is,
Mexican American.
did
Like I didn't know my
Henry
family
find a
goes
way
that
to
far back into
share that
Mesoamerican history.
journalism
And
experience
I wanted to share that experience of like being somewhere where you think you belong, but you really don't belong. And that's kind of my life in comics. Like I've always been this, Mexican American kid where I'm never, or guy now, I'm this old man in comics now, where I now, back, 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't, I was normally the only person in the room that had this kind of experience. Now it's becoming more acceptable, and there's more people being invited to the dinner table, so to speak. And that's what I was trying to get across with Helm Greycastle was, this is a very white space and I want to invade it, and I want you to feel like the foreigner. And I want you to ask yourself, like, why don't I do these things? Why don't I have these conversations? Because I'm constantly having to have that conversation with you and with the things that you love that I've been in love with. I love Lord of the Rings. I'm a sequel guy. I will talk about Lord of the Rings until
If anybody has any questions, please come up to me. If
there's
anybody
no
has any questions,
representation of Mexican Americans in it. Until now, there's Black people in it, which is great. And you just want to open up that space and do it in your own way, and hopefully people dig it. And thanks to guys like Ryan, who puts this book next to D&D books that is like constantly being sold. People are now entering this space and wanting to get involved and have fun with it. So I just want to give something. I just wanted everyone to have a different experience.
What would they recommend?
That's awesome.
I do have a question from the metaverse really quick.
Max.
Someone wants to know if it's actually Jordan Renner who's going to be on the cosplay panel after you. He wants to know if Henry specifically used your journalism background in your Helm's Greycastle. Are you a journalism major?
Ask the question.
No, I'm a high school
welcome.
dropout, and I was
Did you have a question,
I used to
Dave?
work as a journalist in Tucson, Arizona.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to have I had sources. So like if someone said that's not right, I'd be like, no, here's where I got it. Just like Pornsak, like I'm waiting for someone to write an expose on like everything I've written is wrong and I'm not as smart as I think I am, because I think I'm brilliant. I always, every room I walk in, I think I'm the smartest.
So do we,
man in the
Henry.
room.
So do we.
Yeah, so do we. Yeah, so
yeah,
by the
Jordan,
way,
shout out to Jordan. Everyone watch Cosplay Universe.
Yeah.
Jordan's Baby.
Cosplay universe.
I've seen it. So it's such a good
figured
movie.
you
It's
knew
beautiful.
him, and he was just goading you a little bit.
Oh,
yeah.
we were roommates. We've showered in the same bathroom
is
together at the same
all-
time.
this
Because there
is-
was 2 showers. We didn't shower
This is-
together. There was 2
think
showers.
It was
Yeah,
him
stick to
that
that
was
story.
popping in, right?
I do have a classic question. Well, you guys touched on it a little bit about your entry into Image Comics, but Max Schrempf would like to know advice. He's like 15 years old and he really wants to get into comic books. I know him. He's a family friend and he wants to know some advice on how to get into comics, like as a an artist, specifically an artist. He is. You know.
By the way, I apologize. My cat has entered the chat, but that's
Oh,
just
please.
Welcome.
Oh, that's
my
great.
Zoom cat. I got a
The
Zoom
more the
cat, so-
merrier.
Yeah.
So we're looking for some advice on how to get
Okay.
into comics.
I'll let
for-
Hannah
for
go
the-
first.
For the teenagers.
Yeah, I feel like
out
probably
there.
as the newbie, I think the best advice that I got was obviously to read a lot, is to know the material that's out there, know the creators out there, know who you like, know the publisher that you think your idea will gel with the most. And in my experience, for me to have a better understanding of it, I reviewed comic books for outlets, which really allowed me to honestly look at comics not just through the lens that I was familiar with, but to look deeper, like look at the lettering, to like look at the colors more, to just give it a much deeper understanding versus the way we just, as a fan, I would read and we were not really paying like massive attention to detail the way that I started to once I started doing reviews. So I think that would be my like ultimate main answer for someone, is to like just know the material that's out there, knowing what's doing well, and find your niche. And then also I think looking at this panel right now, I think with all of our books personally, we are a perfect example of like why are you telling this story? I think they make that makes for some of the best books. Like, why is that idea coming from you? And why are you the best person for that idea? If you're coming out there for your first idea, because if you're coming out with your first idea, it's got to be a decent one. It's got to be a good one. I had a couple ideas in the back burner before Rogues Gallery that I never moved forward with because I was like, they're not the best. And then with Rogues Gallery, obviously it's meta in the sense that obviously I am an actress. So people really enjoyed that perspective of the entertainment industry coming from an actress. So that would be my main. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, Heidi's been a journalist for 20 years, and I'm sure she could write a kick-ass comic right now with all the knowledge she
I
has.
don't know about that.
I don't know
yeah.
why you never transitioned.
She knows where all the
Question
dead
for
bodies
you.
are. She
I was
can't
gonna
be putting
say,
it
I was
out
gonna
there.
give you hell. There'd be a lot of bodies in that book.
I don't, I've had many chances and I leave it to the people who know how to do it. What can I say?
Oh.
Hannah, I just to follow up on that, just really quickly, I wanted to know with Rogues Gallery too. I mean, did it come to you just one piece, or did you have to, revamp it or make a lot of changes, or especially like you're saying, it was your first comic, but
yeah,
not your last.
No, thankfully not. When I look back at the pitch pages, it's crazy how obviously the main concept is there and it's the same, but all the little twists and turns and even the character growth really came from obviously building out the issues, and I didn't have any of that fully fledged. I thought you think you do, but then when you get into it, you find beats and moments and more opportunities to add a little more depth to these characters. So for me, it was just really the overall concept, and then everything else really came last. I had the main plot, which again, I don't want to give away because it just happened in 3, but I had that main twist that I wanted to, lead to, and all the issues are really just building towards that moment. So for me, Rogues Gallery really, as I said, from the Rogue One premiere, when I saw what went down, I knew I wanted to do something in that space, with that being the main overall message. And I kind of just went from there. It was definitely a long time working. And like for Rogues Gallery, obviously it's based on a TV show that the character's on, based on a comic book, based on a TV show. That's all fully fledged. Like that has its own world. So that was like one of the more fun elements of Rogues Gallery, which is funny because I just saw yesterday, Justin Mason, our artist on Rogues Gallery, incredible artist, Spider-Punk artist. He also has like 2 really exciting books in the works that aren't announced yet, but he's about to skyrocket. He just put up some original art from yesterday from Rogues Gallery, and the first pages that sold were Maisie's TV show, and that's not lost
Oh
on
wow.
Yeah, they were the first pages to go. That's not lost on me. I feel like a lot of people are really interested in the show she was on and like the fun characters and the superhero element. So I never really thought that Rogues Gallery was going to be kind of like potentially my way into like a superhero universe. But the big ask from everybody is they want to see more of it. So yeah, that might be next. Which
Hey, I hope that happens. How hard was it to not buy that art?
I bought a few pages. We gifted Heather Antos, our wonderful editor, a page which she can't share yet because it's the finale.
Oh no. Oh,
Yeah.
I know which one it is.
We gifted
that's
Heather
cool.
the end. The reason why we gifted Heather at the end is because we wrote a really sweet message and we said that we wouldn't have made it to the end without her. And it's true. We really wouldn't have. It's one thing that I've noticed in a lot of like the write-ups and stuff. I get like, I don't like that the editor is kind of like the last person that people think about, you know, when an editor does so much work, especially for a new person like myself. Like Heather really held my hand throughout the process and kept us all on deadlines. And I think a good editor really can make or break a book and make or break the ensemble and, you know, keep everyone together.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because a lot of people, people of the industry, if they were asked, would say that there are no editors at Image, but all of you have really excellent editors, you know, Heather and Pornsak. I know Will Dennis worked with you on The Good Asian, and Henry, I know you work with Claire Napier. So you all do have an editor. But it's not, thank God, I say that as someone who worked at DC, as Pornsak did. It is not editorially driven. So is the editor, I think that's a really interesting question, actually. Are your editors someone that you bounce ideas off of? Are they there to proofread? I mean, how involved is the editorial process on these books? Since they are, you know, like with Tata Del Remo, it was, you know, your family story is so personal, Henry. So I mean, how do you work with your editor on these books?
Well, I was an editor in the newsroom, so I you know, I'm really good at checking other people's work than my own. So that's what I need, because I'll look at something I wrote and it makes sense in my head, but then like it's just, you know, garbage. And the idea with La Voz de Mayo was, is this a good, like, I thought it was a good idea, and I wanted someone who could be completely removed from it, who didn't have the like,
hi Key,
you know, the baggage that it came with of telling a story about brown people and indigenous people. And I wanted someone to take a look at it and tell me whether this was a story worth telling, because a lot of people didn't have faith in it. A lot of people, you know, I tried to get it at Top Shelf, you know, when March came out, and they were like, yeah, come to us when it's done, you know. And I'm just like, I need the money, like I need to, I can't do this alone. So I felt like I was on a path that was going to take me nowhere. And thankfully Claire, who I respect, her
and that must be Cynthia,
you know, criticisms and her philosophies on comics, and just someone who was dedicated, and someone was as hungry as me. I needed someone who was like, I want to make a name for myself, and I want to do something that's good that I can present to people. So you know, I think an editor is very crucial. I think it's a shame they don't get enough awards or attention, like Hannah said. I'm very glad that Hannah got to work with Heather Antos, who I think is, if not the premier editor in working in comics right now, is someone who's very sharp and someone who really has a you know, a point to prove, and wants to help tell the best.
We got everybody into VR except for Pornsak.
Yeah, like I think there's a lot of importance to what they do, and no one will ever know.
Yeah, it's funny because this is like really silly comparison, but I remember when I started modeling very young, and one of the makeup artists, and it's something that stuck with me, she said like, makeup is just there to enhance what's already there. It's not there to change it. It's just there to enhance what's already there. And I feel like a good editor, or their job is to bring out the best of what you're handing them. And Heather did just that for me. Like for Rogues Gallery, I'd been so married to the idea for so long because like it'd been in my head, and there was all these like, you think that when you're explaining it to somebody that it's as clear to them as it is to you, but it's not. So like a good editor is there to like poke holes and bring like tell you what the more interesting elements might be, and like to heighten here, and let's like take this back a bit here. And it really does. I don't know. I personally, obviously, this is again my first experience. Didn't really even understand what an editor's real like job was going to be, other than like grammar and stuff. I didn't really fully understand again. So for Heather to come in and really challenge me, and quite a lot too, get to the point where there are certain moments where I was like, okay, this is why this is doing this, but she would do it because she wanted to see the elements that I was most passionate about, which is like smart, I think, you also have to be someone who's okay with an idea being malleable. If you want if you want to get the best from your editor, it's a collaborative situation. You have to be willing to accept those notes.
So we're running a little short on time, actually very short. So I wanted to ask though, Pornsak, it says an Edison Hark mystery on the first page. Now that suggests there's going to be more.
That does suggest it's going to be more. I am working on another and / more Edison Hark mysteries. True to the tradition of the first book, the research is killing me, man. It is another thing where there's very little written about this at all, and so it is once again is turning into a bunch of tracking down a bunch of texts and cross-referencing and figuring out. It's a weird thing where this is a different thing where I know what it's about. I kind of know how the mystery works and what a lot of what the big moves are. It's just making sure it locks with the history. And that's been the tricky piece of it, is just trying to nail down sources. One of the big sources turned out not to be true, so now I gotta restart that all over again. That's what I'm blaming it on. We should take a selfie. So that is one of the. That's what I'm blaming it on. For how long the book takes, because how tricky the goddamn research is on this next book.
What you're saying, which goes back to Ryan's question, is to write fiction.
Yeah. What's that thing? What is it? Dustin Hoffman on Marathon Man talking to Laurence Olivier, where like Dustin Hoffman runs in and he's just like doing push-ups and running around the block to like get himself all tired
in front of the computer,
just like smoking a cigarette.
About 4 o'clock on your radio menu.
Like, yeah, like that's people make shit up. I just steal. So like I gotta work really hard to locate stuff.
Hey, one of the funniest things or coolest things about this conference is people keep going up to the screen and like wanting to take selfies with you guys. Kind of funny because they're there and you're here. So give them a little shout out in VR.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Hello, VR people.
Pose a little bit.
Of course, yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I love this whole concept and this whole world. It's curiously virtual.
Is that you, Ryan, in the middle?
Yeah,
there?
are you no?
Hi.
I'm not down
it's
there.
It's a me, Mario.
Yeah, there is that's funny because the avatars are like cosplay, and then someone took it to the next.
Did anyone
level
cosplay as Helm Greycastle?
No, we got a Mario in there.
Well, Henry, will there be
way better than Mario?
It's thankfully we're in a position to do more. And I'm excited to get started with that, but I have something else I'm working on that I wish I could talk about, because I'm bad at secrets. So that's I don't know. There's just a lot of cool things happening. Thankfully, shout out to Max too. I met Max at Golden Apple. It's just a matter of time. Just make a comic at FedEx. Start off making small stories, and it's just a matter of time before you're here with us.
A quick thing, because I am slightly obsessed with him. There is a great image writer by the name of Julio Anta, and if you Google him, I'm so impressed by Julio, because Julio pretty much started his comics career during COVID, not knowing anybody, and next thing you know, he's making comics. And part of the way he did that was, he started off going on a bunch of message boards, finding artists, and then he did one-page comics that he would put up on his website. And so that became a CV, so that as he was doing bigger books, he could show people like, I can do this, and they liked sort of what he did. So any anybody looking to break into comics, I really suggest they Google Julio Anta. Me and Julio talked a lot about this. We did a one of these kind of thing, whatever these things are called, for Skylight Books, and where he talked a lot about it. But I am so impressed by him because there was a time where you couldn't really break into comics without knowing somebody or without going to a convention, and he kind of did it all from home. And you know, and he's got a book. He's got a book at Image, but he's got a book at some of the real fancy book publishers as well. And so he's doing a really great job for himself. But again, I'm super impressed by him, and it's a little bit of changing of the industry that you can actually do that when that used to not be possible.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of ways now too, you know, with the likes of a Kickstarter, we're seeing more and more people kickstart their own books and then eventually take those books to publishers and then they're being republished through the publisher. Yeah, there's a lot of, because not everyone, you know, it's the one thing in comics, not everyone understands, especially creator-owned book, like comics books are expensive to make, you know, so having platforms like the likes of Kickstarter and having someone back it is a big option for a lot of people.
Yeah, we have a creator-owned. Sorry about that. We have a creator-owned panel coming up to talk specifically about that, doing Kickstarters and crowdfunding and just self-promotion and even self-distribution.
I even had, like, total transparency, I had a budget in mind, assuming that's what it would be, and we went entirely over because you know, when we finished, then cover artists, variant covers, and everything else that I think if you're outside of comics, you don't truly understand. But you want to obviously look after the team and
the Teslas you have to buy. It's just so many things.
I know we touched on it for a minute, but Hannah, congratulations!
Yeah,
if you guys
congrats.
didn't hear, her debut comic book got optioned by Don Cheadle's production company, and they're development on a TV show. So wow, that's a success story right out the gate.
Don't get canceled.
Well, as we love to say, there's always more to come. So I guess that's it. We got to wrap this up. But thank you so much, Pornsak, Hannah, and Henry. Ryan, thanks for having us here, putting this all together.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Heidi.
FanCon.
Thank you for hosting.
Yes.
Heidi.
It's great talking to you all. And
you guys are part of history. One of the first ever virtual convention, developed in VR. On Altspace, FanConXR. Go to your local comic book stores, pick up the Good Asian, or Golden Apple if you're in LA, or if you're on the internet.
Golden Apple.
Sure.
Shout out to Golden Apple. You guys
go to your local comic book store.
You guys supported me, and you ordered Rogues Gallery before, like, it was even mentioned anywhere. You guys were like,
supported all of us.
Yeah.
Grab everybody's comic book, read it however you can, borrow it from a friend, buy it, however.
Pirate it.
Whatever. Just enjoy it. We made it for you guys to enjoy.
Library. Go to your library.
That's right.
That's right.
Thanks a lot for doing this panel, guys. A lot of fun. And next time we'll be in fun little avatars.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that was super fun. Wow, that was fantastic. Our next panel is coming up in 8 minutes. You can hang out here and explore this world. You can go to the FanConXR library, a library lobby, and learn about the different panels that we have coming up today. The next panel will be in Avatar in VR. It is about the new Cosplay Universe movie that I'm not going to give anything away. So I'm just going to say the next panel